Now, before I start, a couple of disclaimers, okay? I am not a lawyer. I'm not a lawmaker. I'm not a lobbyist. I'm not a political scientist. I'm just an average American citizen, just like all of you, whose life was profoundly advantaged by a law that was passed in 1972 when I was a junior in high school, just like many of you. That law is called Title IX. And it starts with these very simple 32 words. Read it carefully because it's profound for you too. No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in or be subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity that receives federal financial assistance. That seems really simple, doesn't it? Boys and girls, men and women, should have equal opportunity to learn and to participate in programs that are available in the schools. So this morning I'd like to share with you a little bit about what life was like before Title IX, highlight a couple of the amazing stages of progress that we've all enjoyed since its passage, and then talk to you a little bit about why, even 43 years later, you should continue to care, okay? So let's go backwards, all right? Imagine a time when there was no Mia Hamm and no World Cup soccer. Imagine a time when there was no Diana Taurasi in the WNBA. Imagine an Olympic Games where women were not competing in volleyball, basketball, ice hockey, distance running, and that's just to name a few. It is a long, long list. Imagine a time when girls were warned that math and science would be too difficult for them. They were repeatedly told that colleges and graduate schools were a waste of money and a waste of time. Imagine a time when the only option to deal with the schoolyard bully was to either turn our backs or learn to fight. Harassment in the schools prior to Title IX was just kind of thought of as this annoying rite of passage. It's all part of growing up, right? Man up. That's the way it goes. Seems hard to believe, right? This was the state of affairs in the United States of America in 1970. Before the passage of Title IX, it was completely legal to discriminate against girls and women. There was no law in our country that prohibited harassment on the basis of sex or on the failure to conform to gender stereotypes. Girls were discouraged from the study of math, science, and technology. Many of the nation's leading universities didn't even accept women. Look at that list. How many of you are thinking about going to those schools? And law, medical, business schools, they all had quotas, very small quotas on the number of women that they would admit. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she graduated from Columbia University with a law degree in 1959. She was a handful of the women at Columbia at that time. Justice Ginsburg graduated #1 in her class. And do you know there was not a single law firm in the entire city of New York that would hire her? That's the state of affairs prior to Title IX. There were no sports programs for women, none. Maybe a little swimming, maybe a little tennis, definitely no team sports. The number of girls that had access to high school sports prior to Title IX was 1 in 27. That seems shocking to you? Okay. Now this is where my personal story kind of begins. I was the 1 in 27 girls that played high school sports. I did because I went to an all-girls high school. Had I gone to a co-ed high school, I would have never had a chance to play. I naively did not understand nor even appreciate the enormous inequity until I reached college in 1974. And when I arrived at the beautiful campus of the University of Richmond, I was shocked at what I found there, a wonderful school, but wholly reflective of the time. So let me try to set the stage for you, okay? The male athletes at that time lived and looked pretty much like they do today at Division I college sports, okay? They had beautiful uniforms, footwear, training gear. They lived in beautiful dorms. They ate in private dining rooms. They had training meals prepared for them. They traveled on private planes or chartered buses, right? They had academic tutors were always available to them whenever they were needed. The students and the fans bought tickets to their game, okay? And their progress and their failures were widely chronicled in the school press and in the Richmond local press. State of affairs for the male athletes. For the female athletes, it was a little bit different. We were given a jersey and shorts. That was it. No warm-up gear, no socks, no shoes. We actually did our own wash. So we had to organize our laundry cycle based on our game schedule to make sure that we had clean jerseys prior to the game. We ate in a dining room with all the students, which we all loved. The problem is that that dining room closed at 6:30, and we usually had practice until 6. So we were constantly running from the gym to the dining hall to try to get there in time before it closed so we could get something to eat. The transportation, well, that was up to us. Sometimes our coaches rented vans and would drive us, or sometimes the girls on the team would just pool our cars and we'd get us there, right? We played in the oldest gym on campus. It was called Keller Hall. The fan seating was up in the balcony, really. Our fans were just our friends and family. They didn't seem to mind. They'd hike up the stairs no matter what, right? This was the way it was prior to Title IX, my freshman year, 1974. Now, as you know, the 60s and 70s, thankfully, were a time of great social unrest and change, right? We were experiencing the civil rights movement and the protests against the Vietnam War. There was talk of an equal rights amendment for women. The first women's professional tennis circuit was founded at this time, and the great Billie Jean King played and defeated Bobby Riggs in a huge tennis match that was actually televised nationally, unheard of for a woman to be on national TV, and it was called the Battle of the Sexes. And as we were watching all this change unfold on the news every single night, finally we got a little symbol that came to our basketball team. And when I tell you what it is in today's light, in today's world, this next chapter of my story is going to seem so minor and insignificant to you. But in 1976, it was a huge sign that there was a brighter future to come. So always, at the end of practice, just like for you all, our coach huddled us up, and she told us, hey, you girls need to head down to the locker room because there's a shoe salesman there. We're like, Coach, it's like 6:10. We gotta go. We're hungry, we gotta eat, and besides, we didn't bring any money. She got this huge smile on her face. She said, no, you don't understand. The university is buying your shoes. We were like stunned. Wow, really? Oh my God, that's awesome. Forget dinner. We're all about the shoes, right? So we rushed down to the girls' locker room, and of course there was a male shoe salesman there with boxes and boxes of shoes. Anybody know the #1 basketball shoe in 1976? Who's Converse? Converse. Nike. Nobody even heard of Nike in 1976. Converse, exactly. And our colors at Richmond were navy blue and red. And just then, out of a box, came a pair of red suede Converse All-Stars. Thank you. If I had mine today, I could sell them for so much money. I have no idea where they are. But aren't they beautiful? Okay? And we saw these shoes, and we looked at each other. And remember, up until this time, we all supplied our own shoes, right? All of a sudden, we looked at each other and said, wow, wouldn't it be great if we all got the same shoe? Now, does that seem so silly to you guys? But to us, that was like a breakthrough. That was like the first symbol of real team. So as we prepared for our next game, all sitting in the locker room looking at each other with the same shoes, we are lacing up those shoes, and all of a sudden there was a little spring in our step. We could run faster, we could jump higher. We hit the court that night, and there was no stopping us. Okay, we went on to win that game very easily, and we won the next 10. And after the fourth game, the campus newspaper started to get wind of this. And as we continued to win, don't you know, those fans, some of them even started climbing up the stairs to the balcony. It was amazing. And pretty soon, all over the campus, people were saying, wow, have you seen the women's basketball team? They're on fire. It's got to be the red suede shoes. Really? But of course, the magic was not in the shoes, right? It was in the higher confidence and the self-esteem that blossomed in us when we realized that we were noticed, that we mattered, that someone even cared. The magic of Title IX requires schools to create a learning and a competing environment in which all students can succeed. So you mentioned Nike. Nike is one of the first companies that realized the power of women as competitors. And they wisely created it into a huge business. And they used really powerful ads like this. I am confident, I am healthy, I am proud, I am passionate, I am driven, I am fun, I am successful, I am strong, I am assertive, I am happy, I am tough, I am committed, I am inspired, and I am good at soccer. Protect the original intent of Title IX. This long, long list of benefits, this is the magic of Title IX. And thankfully, there has been a tsunami of positive change in the last 40 years. The number of girls participating in high school sports has gone from the 1 in 27 to the 1 in 2.5, like all of you, right? Amazing change. The number of collegiate sports teams has gone from 2.5 to over 9 per school. And the number of college athletes has risen from a mere 30,000 to over almost 200,000 women, and the majority of them are on scholarship. And the exciting progress about all this is that it has definitely not come at the expense of programs for boys and men. This is a common myth. In fact, the participation for men and boys also rose over the same 35 to 40-year time period, right? It's a rising tide lifts all boats. Title IX has also helped to reduce sexual bias in the classroom and in the standardized tests that we all take for college admission. Look at this chart, which showcases the percentage of degrees awarded to women pre and post Title IX. It's really staggering. Prior to Title IX, only 10% of the degrees were awarded to women. Now roughly 50% equal to the population. Enormous change. And again, this progress at the collegiate level occurred for both genders, as you can see here. The number of degrees awarded to both men and women, and those entering medical and law schools. But again, look at the numbers of change. Opportunities for girls to play. And so this progress is staggering, of course, but there's lots to celebrate here, but there's still tons of work to be done, even 40 years later. Opportunities for girls to play is still lagging way behind in disadvantaged schools. Let's just take the example here in Chicago of Kelly High School on the south side versus New Trier up north. The gap between these two schools and what girls have access to is much, much bigger than the 30 miles. The girls lack equipment, they lack facilities, they lack scheduling, they lack quality coaches. And while we've made huge progress in the areas of STEM, right, which are science, technology, engineering, and math, look at the progress chart here from 72 to today. Huge progress, but still dramatic gaps in the number of degrees awarded to women, whether at the doctoral level or at the undergraduate level, in math, engineering, computer science, and physics. And unfortunately, despite efforts made to curb sexual harassment, this form of discrimination is still widely prevalent in our schools and in college campuses. More than half the girls and 40% of the boys have reported sexual harassment as recently as 2011. And for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender students, the numbers are scary and alarming. 85% reporting harassment, 19% reporting physical assault. So it's important to point out that Title IX is a gender-neutral piece of legislation, okay? It offers no special benefits to girls or to women. It is designed to ensure quality education for all students by prohibiting hostile, threatening, unfair behavior. Title IX protects the rights of all of our students. And while Title IX is certainly about a lot more than sports, the evidence is compelling that playing sports helps all athletes find our leadership voices and have the confidence to use them. It teaches the life skills of goal setting, of discipline, of perseverance, of teamwork. It requires healthy behaviors that are so positive in our society. Strong bones and muscles, right? Higher self-esteem, more positive body image, greater independence. Title IX is a law about fairness and equality in all aspects of education. And wouldn't we want these benefits for all of our citizens? They say that social change takes time. And while I am grateful for the progress that has been made, I am outraged that in 2015, 43 years after the passage of this law, that sexual harassment is still so prevalent in our schools, and that women are still making 70% of a man for the same work. So as we seek together improvement areas, perhaps we should look at the makeup of our elected officials. Those who make the laws and enforce the laws. And let's make sure that they are reflecting on the needs of all of our citizens. You all are just this close to get to vote, right? So as you're thinking about voting, which is going to happen very soon for you, be mindful that the House of Representatives is only 17% women. The US Senate, 20% women. Our Supreme Court justices, 3 out of 9. And then we have this little issue of the White House. Now, but most importantly, we should look at ourselves, right? And we should make sure that through education and empathy, that we are doing everything we can to be open, to seek to understand, to walk in the shoes of others. My generation is counting on your generation to drive the next 40 years of meaningful, positive change. And I, for one, am wholly confident that you guys are up to the task. So I want you to keep this in mind. Please charge ahead. Make the difference that I know you can. And thank you for listening.